My name is Alina, and I am 32 years old. If you looked at my life from the outside, you would think I had everything: a good job, a nice home, and most of all, a loving family. At least, that is what I believed. I grew up in a small house with my mother, father, and two younger brothers, Adil and Samir. We were not rich, but we had each other. And for me, that was enough. I was the eldest child. I worked hard, studied well, and started earning before anyone else in the family. I gave my first salary to my mother. She cried and hugged me. That day I felt so proud, so loved. Every month, I helped with the bills. I bought clothes for my brothers, paid for their school fees, and sometimes skipped things for myself just so they could have more. I thought, this is what family does. And I never complained. My parents praised me in front of others. Alina is our strength, they would say. I smiled every time I heard that. Their words were like warmth in my heart. But slowly, things started to change. At first, it was small. I would come home after work, and no one would ask how my day was. My brothers would laugh together and leave me out. My mother started asking me for more money, not explaining why. Still, I said nothing. I thought, maybe they are just busy, maybe they are tired. I kept giving, I kept caring, I kept loving. Then came the day my father fell sick. I took leave from work, stayed with him in the hospital, and paid for all the treatment. I thought this would bring us all closer. But when he got better, he thanked my younger brother, not me. I stood there, silent, shocked. I thought it was just a mistake. But deep inside, something broke that day. One night, I heard my brothers talking. They were planning to start a business using MY savings. And they were laughing, saying, "She is so emotional. She will say yes to anything." Tears filled my eyes. I covered my mouth and cried quietly. I did not want them to hear me. I felt like my whole world was turning into dust. Why? I asked myself, why would they treat me like this? I remembered the birthdays I planned, the sacrifices I made, the times I stood up for them when no one else did. And now, I was just a bank account to them, nothing more. That night, I could not sleep. I kept asking, did they ever love me? Or was I just someone they used from the start? My heart wanted to believe this was just a phase, a misunderstanding. But my mind was slowly learning the truth. My perfect life, the life I was so proud of, was built on lies. And I was not ready to face what was coming next. After that night, something inside me changed. I still woke up early. I still cooked for everyone. I still smiled when my mother called my name. But the truth was, I was hurting. Deep inside, I felt empty. I started noticing things that I once ignored. My brothers never thanked me anymore. They would ask for money without even explaining why. And when I asked questions, they would get angry. Samir once shouted, "Stop acting like a mother. Just give it if you want to help." Those words hit me like a slap. I went to my room and cried alone. I held my pillow tight. and asked myself, when did I become a burden to my own family? One evening, I heard laughter from the living room. I walked out, smiling, thinking maybe they were watching a funny movie together. But the moment I stepped in, the laughter stopped. Adil looked at me and said, "Oh, it's just her." Just her? My heart sank. I felt like a stranger in my own house. They were planning a weekend trip. Without me, even my parents knew. No one told me. No one asked me. I stood there in silence, pretending I was okay. But inside, I was breaking. A few days later, my mother came to me with a soft voice. "Alina, we need some money. Your brother is going to start his business. Just help him this once. Okay?" I nodded. I transferred the money. She did not even say thank you. That night, I stared at the ceiling and whispered to myself, "Is this all I am now? Just someone they use?" I wanted to believe it was just pressure, just stress. But then something happened that I could not ignore. One day I came home early. The house was quiet. I walked into the kitchen to get water, and I heard voices from the hallway. It was my mother and Adil. He said, "Once we get what we need from her, we should ask her to move out. She is getting in the way." And my mother replied, "Yes, she is too emotional, always crying. It is better if she stays away." My heart stopped. I stood frozen. I could not breathe. My chest felt heavy. My own mother, my own blood, was planning to push me away. Tears rolled down my face. I did not make a sound. I just walked back to my room, shut the door slowly, and sat on the floor. I hugged my knees, rocked myself back and forth, and said, "This is not real. This is not happening." But it was happening. The people I loved the most were slowly turning into strangers. And this was just the beginning. After I heard that conversation between my mother and Adil, I felt like the ground under my feet had disappeared. I stayed in my room the whole night. I did not eat. I did not sleep. I just cried in silence. The next morning, I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red. My face was pale. I did not even recognize the girl in the mirror. I whispered, "What happened to you, Alina? Where is your smile?" I tried to act normal. I made breakfast. I smiled at my father. But inside, I was screaming. No one noticed the pain in my eyes. No one asked if I was okay. They just took their plates, ate the food, and left. That afternoon, I walked to the park near our house. It was the only place where I could breathe. I sat on the same bench where I used to sit with my brothers when we were kids. We used to laugh here. We used to play. Now, I sat there all alone with tears in my eyes. A little girl ran past me, laughing with her mother. I smiled at them, but then my smile faded. I thought, will I ever have someone who truly loves me? Or am I just meant to be used and left? That evening, I came home. The house was full of noise. My family was laughing again. But it was not because of me. It was never because of me anymore. I stood in the corner, watching them. They were talking about a new car Adil wanted. He looked at me and said, "Alina, You have money, right? Can you help me with the down payment? I could not believe it. No, hello. No, how are you? Just another request. I stayed quiet. My mother frowned and said, "Why are you always so quiet now? You are acting strange. Be useful." Something inside me broke. I stood up and shouted, "Enough!" Everyone went silent. They stared at me like I had gone mad. I said, "All these years, I gave you my love, my time, my money. And what did I get? Nothing. No respect. No care. Not even a thank you." Tears started falling from my eyes, but I did not stop. I looked at my mother and said, "You were supposed to protect me, but you chose them. You chose to hurt me." I turned to my brothers. "You used me like an ATM. You never cared how I felt." My father tried to speak, but I raised my hand. I said, "No, today I will speak. Today I will finally say everything I kept in my heart." They stood frozen. No one said a word. I ran to my room, shut the door, and cried hard. My body shook with pain. My heart felt heavy, but for the first time, I also felt a little free. I finally spoke my truth. That night, I looked at the stars from my window and whispered, "I do not know what comes next, but I cannot live like this anymore." And in that moment, I knew something had to change. The silence in my room was loud, the kind of silence that screams into your soul. I sat on my bed, staring at the wall. The house was quiet, but my heart was still shaking. So many thoughts were spinning in my head, so many questions and no answers. Why me? I whispered, "What did I do wrong?" I gave them everything. My money, my time, my care, and in return, they gave me pain. That night, no one knocked on my door. No one asked how I was. They all stayed away, maybe because they knew I had finally seen the truth. But the truth hurts. I felt like a stranger in my own home, like I was invisible. I picked up my phone, scrolled through my contacts, looking for someone to talk to. I had hundreds of names, but not a single person I could call. I put the phone down and just stared at the ceiling. Tears rolled down my cheeks. Slowly, quietly, I remembered the time when I was a child. I used to sit in the garden and dream about life. I dreamed about love, about a family that would always be there for me. I never imagined that one day the people I loved the most would make me feel like nothing. I walked to the mirror and looked at my reflection. My eyes were tired. My smile was gone. I touched my face and said, "You are still here, Alina. Even if no one stands by you, you are still here." But that did not stop the ache in my chest, the ache of being alone. The next day, I tried to act normal again. I made tea, cleaned the kitchen, and did the laundry, but every step felt heavy. Every smile felt fake. I watched my mother laugh with a deal as if nothing had happened. They did not say a word about my breakdown. They acted like it never happened, like my pain never existed. I walked past them quietly, but inside I was screaming again. In the evening, I sat in the garden trying to breathe. The air was cool. The sky was orange with sunset, but nothing could calm my heart. I closed my eyes and thought about leaving. What if I just disappear? Would they even notice I am gone? I asked myself, and for the first time, I was not afraid of being away from them. I was afraid of staying. The loneliness was no longer outside of me. It had grown inside me. I felt empty. I picked up a small flower from the ground. It was crushed, but still holding on. I held it in my hand and whispered, "Just like me." That night, I opened an old diary and began to write. I wrote everything: my pain, my fear, my broken dreams. And page by page, I started to see something clearly. This was not just about what they did to me. It was also about what I allowed. I had let them hurt me. I had stayed quiet for too long. My chest felt tight, but my mind was clear. I wrote one final line in bold letters: "I will not be silent anymore." I closed the diary and held it close to my heart. There was still pain, still loneliness, but now there was also a small fire inside me, a fire that whispered, "You deserve better." And in that quiet moment, I believed it. I woke up the next morning with red eyes, but a stronger heart. The sun was shining through the window, touching my face gently. For the first time in weeks, I felt a small sense of peace. Not because my pain was gone, but because I had finally accepted it. Pain was now a part of me, but it did not control me anymore. I sat up, looked around my room, and said softly, "This is MY life, and it is time to take it back." I stood in front of the mirror again. I looked into my own eyes. There was still sadness, but there was also something new: courage. I smiled, a small one, and whispered, "Alina, you are still standing." I started my day with a list, not a to-do list, but a Teohil list. Forgive yourself. Set boundaries. Start fresh. Love yourself. I went outside for a walk. The wind felt soft on my face. The birds were singing. The world was still beautiful, even after all the pain. And I realized something: the world never stopped for my sadness. So why should I? As I walked past people, I noticed smiles, laughter, even kindness in strangers' eyes. And I thought, maybe I do not need their love anymore. Maybe I need my own. I went back home and sat down with my diary again. I wrote, "They broke me, but they did not end me. I will rise, even if it takes time. I will create a life that feels like mine." I opened my laptop and searched for jobs in another city. I was scared. I had never lived alone before, but something in me whispered, "You can do this." I found a small job in a bookstore. It was not big, but it was a start to a life where I made my own choices, a life where I was not afraid to say, "No." I made a decision that day. I would leave the house. I packed slowly, one bag, a few clothes, my books, my diary, and my dreams. I did not tell anyone. I knew if I told them, they would try to stop me, But I needed to leave for my peace, for my healing, for myself. Before walking out, I stood at the door and looked back. This house had memories, some sweet, many bitter. But now it was just a house. It was no longer my home. With a deep breath, I stepped outside. Every step felt heavy, but also free. When I reached the bus stop, I sat alone with my bag beside me. There were people around, but I was not scared. For the first time, I was not afraid of being alone, because I was not lost anymore. I was found. I took out my diary and wrote one last line before the bus arrived. This is not the end of my story. It is just the beginning. As the bus moved forward, I watched the town disappear behind me. No more fake smiles. No more begging for love. Just me and a new chapter that I would write with my own hands. And in that moment, with tears in my eyes and hope in my heart, I whispered to myself, "You are enough."